What's poppin', yo? Complex decided to coin a new list of their own, which is hip hop platforms or hip hop media rankings. This is the second year that they've done it. And I thought it was pretty cool the first year. I thought it was relatively accurate. This year, they dropped it again. And I kind of want to go over a couple of names, a couple of people that I think should be on here that weren't on here, and a couple of people that I wouldn't say I'm surprised are on here, but I would like to understand the criteria behind why they put them on here. So off rip, they've got at number 25, gabp, which I didn't know who this was. I knew what the platform was, of course. And I had heard his name actually from a mutual friend, but he's the guy that does On the Radar. For him to be at number 25, I feel like is very low because On the Radar is somewhat of a rite of passage now. Any rapper coming up, they gotta go on the radar. And for it to be so big that in the past year, Drake and Central C hop on there, and of course they had the Concrete Cypher too, which is something that they mentioned. But that's one of the biggest platforms that brought unity to the UK and Canada. I mean, they're both Commonwealth countries. It's not like, oh, there was beef between the UK and Canada. But for Drake and Central C to come together, that was a massive moment, especially for Central C as well. So I would think that this would have to be higher up on the list, especially since it's purely music, it's purely hip hop, it's freestyle, it's as hip hop as you can get, right? There's no interview. Well, interview is hip hop too, but there's nothing ancillary to it other than the music, which is what I would presume should be valued a lot higher, right? But perhaps they're just putting him here because as a personality, he may not be that big, but if it's a media platform, I don't see why him as a personality matters all that much. Then they've got Aron from KTO. I'll probably skip through a bunch. I'm glad that he made it on here. I do think the refreshingly unproblematic content about rappers, that's what he's known for, being somewhat of an odd compliment to give somebody. It's somewhat like saying, oh yeah, do you know this guy? And they're like, yeah, he doesn't ruffle any feathers and that's it. And you're like, huh? Like, does he do something great? They could have said, oh, incredibly novel interviews with rappers, or, you know, he has different settings for his interviews. So they could be like, oh, he has a good taste in how he sets up interviews. It's just refreshingly unproblematic content about rappers. Like, what does that even mean? But yeah, so him making this, he's purely damn near just music and culture. Jason Lee, yeah, he should be on there. Adam22 at number 22, which is a bit, I can somewhat understand. Of course, he has to be on this list. For West Coast, he's done a lot. But if we're looking at the past year, the highlights that they put is the Kodak Black and a Foolio interview. But I think they only put the Foolio interview because Foolio died. Otherwise, if Foolio hadn't passed away, that would not have been a very big moment, you could call it. They could have put the Pop Smoke Killer documentary. I think not documentary, interview on here. I think that was a bigger deal this year. He's had a couple in the past month or two. But yeah, I don't know. There are other people that I would think as a platform, No Jumper would be ranked above in terms of cultural relevance, be it positive or negative, than some others. Traplo Ross, like for example, I think Adam22, No Jumper would be above Traplo Ross, but Traplo Ross has had such a crazy year that he needed to be on here. And this is where I want to know what the criteria is, because right now when I see what they mention, like, oh, Youngboy documentary, King Von documentary for Traplo Ross, I'm wondering if it's people that created a moment or moments that put all eyes on them for a certain period of time within hip hop. And that's what I'm guessing the criteria is. The more I look at this, because for Traplo Ross, a lot of the time it's relatively quiet because he's working on a new project. And the King Von thing, all eyes were on him. Van Lathan was trying to talk to him, and he does a very good job of towing this line between being public and doing a bunch of press and talking to a bunch of different people and then secluding back to his workstation and diving into the next project. And I think he's tapped into that more in the past 18 months, which has led to a lot more visibility for him, which is very good. Congratulations to him. So yeah, I would 100% agree that he should be on here. Now, what ranking? I don't know. But I don't think they did him any harm by putting him at number 20. Now, Nesca is where I'm a bit confused, because remember when I talked about the criteria just a moment ago? What has Nesca done that has had all eyes on her? right? For the KTO interview, or Jason Lee, of course, he was rolling with Kanye West. He had a bunch of different moments. A lot of it is more on the, you could call it, I would say like female audience side. I wouldn't even necessarily just call it gossip, because you could throw the gossip label on a lot of different platforms. But KTO, the Laser Dim thing, the Cole Bennett show, Spotify collaboration, Bryson Tiller, those are big moments. Now, would I say everything paused? No, but that's also because KTO is, or has, the fan base and reputation of being underground. And I think this is more of a taste pick. However, with On the Radar, it's had big moments like Drake and Central C. Everybody paid attention to that. Adam 22, he's had a couple of moments that everybody has paid attention to. Van Lathan, people are just consistently paying attention to what he's had going on, and he comes from a background where most people already know about him. Traplo Ross, it was the King Von one. So what was it with Nesca? Is it just more of a taste pick, kind of like KTO? If so, then I understand, but then how do you rank the people if the criteria is a mix of a taste and how much people were paying attention to them from the moments that they created? And I do feel like they gave her a better compliment when they said textbook interviewing skills, ability to provide fair, nuanced commentary about trending topics. Like, okay, you guys couldn't give that to KTO? they didn't call her, unproblematic interviewer. Sway, this guy's just a legend. I don't know. He's not as potent as he once was, and I don't think the format is in general. Like, I don't think Breakfast Club hits as it once did. I'm going to skip a couple of these people. Angela Yee, Big Boy, right? We know these people are standard. Angie Martinez, Bootleg Kev. This guy's rapid-fired interviews. He's had several interviews where we've all seen clips of them. So there's no doubt that Mexican OT should be here. Oh, not Mexican OT. That Bootleg Kev should be here. Rory and Maul, I think the Drake and Kendrick beef and Maul's association with Drake is what put them on here. Other than that, and you could see it too, they just talk about OVO Maul, OVO info, this and that. Other than that, I don't know if they would have been on here. And I'm saying that, not that I wouldn't have put them on here, because I also wouldn't have put them on here. But if I had to pick 20, would they have made top 20? Possibly. They wouldn't have made top 13, that's for sure. But yeah, I think it's the OVO thing. I don't know if Complex would have put them on here otherwise. Lil Yachty and Mitch for their podcast. I don't know about... Yeah, they had the J. Cole interview. And I think they had some things in conjunction that did very well for them. So the J. Cole interview and the Secret Recipe song with Yachty, they combine these things together, and it performs well. Yeah, I'm willing to have this. It's a rapper too. Nori, I thought they would just put Nori and the DJ. So Drink Champs, yeah, of course, they're really big. Nardwar, okay, makes sense. Gilly Wallow, makes sense. Anthony Fantano, I agree. But I do think people were saying, oh no, he should be on the music side. What? The guy's done tons and tons and tons of hip-hop reviews. So he deserves to be here, without a doubt. Has he created those moments, though? This year, I don't know. He did have he's just consistent. That's the thing. The guy's been really, really consistent. I do think him calling the Vultures album unreviewable was weird. So that's a hip-hop album. So I don't know where they're going with that. But yeah. Ebro, whether you like him or not, the guy is a legend. Vlad, the guy's super consistent. We can't really say much here. And he had the whole key. He solved the Tupac murder, like laid everything out. Elliot Wilson, I don't know how much. I think Elliot Wilson himself as a figure has been more popular in the past year with people talking about him than he had prior. Prior, I think it would be about his work, but now it was about him too. And there was the journalist conversation. There was the they talk up and down relationship with Drake, but there was the back and forth that he had with Drake. Drake taking shots at him. He did the Youngboy interview. I believe they did the first Youngboy interview when they went to see him. So that was a very big deal. Then you got Charlemagne, who standard, right? Although I don't know if he's as potent as he was in the past couple of years, and that just happens when you split your focus. But he's still consistent. Kai Cenat is where I wouldn't say I have to draw the line, but I've got to go back to the criteria. If it's about, were you able to create a couple of big moments that everybody in hip-hop was paying attention to, then yes, Kai Cenat makes sense. He had Nicki Minaj on there. He had Offset on there. It was really, really big. Everyone was talking about it. He has rappers on here and there. But is he a hip-hop platform? Is he a hip-hop media outlet? I think he himself would say that he's not. And that therein lies the confusion. Because if Kai Cenat is on here, and he had the back and forth with Ye, but that's partially just being a celebrity, which is what this guy is now. And that's partially why, if they're going to have Kai Cenat on here, I think they pretty much have to have Plaqueboy Max on here. I don't know if he would be as high, probably a little bit further down the list, but that guy's done a lot of music-related stuff. Would I say he's a hip-hop media outlet? No, but I would say he does a lot more stuff related to music or centered around music from what I've seen, at least during his come-up, I don't know about now, than Kai Cenat. He's had people freestyling on there. He's had a bunch of different artists on there. He's somewhat helped certain artists blow up. I think the Laser Dim situation, they had a little bit of a back and forth because he helped that guy take off to a certain degree. So there were all these things surrounding him. And in the beginning, he was just doing different things with underground rappers. So if they're putting KTO on there, and I'm not saying that Plaqueboy Max is the same as KTO, but in that ranking, I think he should be there if they're going to put Kai Cenat, who isn't primarily hip-hop media focused. I would say Kai Cenat is a general entertainer on here. And they brought him up 3 points. So is it because he got really big moments with famous people? That is enough. That's a very big deal to be able to get. So you can't say, oh, that's just why, or that's the only reason why. So it's difficult. That's why I want to know what the criteria is. Joe Budden, of course. Come on now. The guy's incredibly consistent, entertaining. Everyone's paying attention to what he's saying, especially with the Drake and Kendrick beef. And then you've got Akademiks at number 1. And I think what pushed him over to number 1, especially for Complex, was him being the center of the Drake and Kendrick beef, getting mentioned in both songs. Everyone flocking to his platform, at certain points having hundreds of thousands of viewers altogether, adding up the different platforms. I do think they kind of did him greasy, though, in the comments where they just decided to throw in, oh, most troubling is the case he's fighting right now. In May, his ex-girlfriend filed a lawsuit. I'm like, damn, what's that got to do with anything? Or what's that got to do with him being a media platform? But yeah, Akademiks has had beefs with all of these people. It's almost impossible to not have him in top 2 if you're going by the criteria of everybody paying attention to what he has going on, which I do think is a valid criteria. And it should be weighed more than everything else. Because sure, someone can be, you know how they call it, like unproblematic, or they could just, oh yeah, you know, this person just talks about music. Okay, but if nobody's listening to it, then they're not really shaking anything up. So it's better to be listened to than to do something amazing and nobody pays attention to it. And there is a sweet spot, of course, which I do think a couple of people on here hit, namely DJ Vlad. Well, yeah, Akademiks, he should be on here. Should he be number 1? Depends on the criteria that you want to put. But I wouldn't disagree with this pick. For 2024 as well, yeah, for 2024, you cannot disagree with this pick. Not to mention, you could call it not hip-hop or whatever, but as a media platform, him linking with Donald Trump's son, I think that's a really, really big moment. And talking to hip-hop with Donald Trump's son, too. So he's fusing his world with Donald Trump's son. And they didn't even really have much of a political conversation. It was just a sit-down. And he brought hip-hop forward. And I think the funny thing, too, is becoming a meme. I don't really get that. If Akademiks is or was a meme, it wasn't this year that happened. But they may be just talking about the OVO Drake stuff. But overall, I think this is a solid list. I would have liked to see, I think it would have been a little bit better to see somebody like Plaqueboy Max on there. That's the only person that I would add on here. Would I take anyone off? No. But if I had to take someone off to put him on there, I would find somebody to take off. Who? I don't know. There are certain people that are just on here because I can't, like, how do you remove Angie Martinez, right? She's had big interviews in the past year. She's cemented herself. She's been doing this for decades. Yeah, it's hard to remove anybody. And for 2024 as well. That's another good point we have to make. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. Is there anybody that you would remove? Is there anybody that you would add? I've seen a lot of people name other people in our space. And I'm like, man, while these people may be good, they're not shaking anything up. And that was the criteria that I determined. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for watching. Peace.